Hello FPL players, welcome back to another team selection video for Game Week 14. For today's video, I'm gonna go through my Game Week 13 review followed by my team selection for Game Week 14. If you like my content, do consider giving me a thumbs up and also subscribe to this channel if you're new around here. It will massively help out this channel too. So my Game Week 13 results has ended at 64 points and my rank has risen to around 44k. There were a lot of surprises for this game week. We saw Andrew assist twice and got a higher score than Mitrovic. We saw Forrest and Nico Williams got an unexpected clean sheet against Forrest. There were also many players who blanked in this game weeks, the likes of Xhaka, Martinelli, Trippier, Cancelo, Zaha and Solanke all blanked in this game week. There were many frustrated FPL players who leave massive amount of points on the bench. No one expected the likes of players like Andrews, Nico Williams and even Bailey to be getting some points. And of course there are some decent performance too. In terms of Haaland, he has got 2 goals against Brighton and De Bruyne scored a screamer from distance too, and will still prove they are weak in scoring goals, and they gave Danny Ward another clean sheet too. Danny Ward got 4 clean sheets in the past 5 matches so far, which is incredible given the fact that Leicester defense has been conceding so many goals in the first few, I would say first 7 games. And it's also unfortunate that Newcastle did not get their clean sheet. I think they played really well, and the defense like Pope and Trippier probably deserve some clean sheet points if not for the likes of Harry Kane. It's just unlucky they're up against a player like Kane. You know, he can score from any difficult situation, as we see him score from a low header in an unorthodox position against Newcastle. And Tottenham as a team didn't even play well at all, and yet Harry Kane still is able to get that goal. And Arsenal seems to have fallen off a little bit. They're showing some fatigue in the second half, and it will be interesting to see how they bounce back from this draw against Southampton. Elsewhere, we see Zaha continues to be disappointing as he blanks against a team like Everton. It was a bad game and a bad day for Crystal Palace side as they were trashed by Everton 3-0. I feel this is a game that Zaha can possibly get some attacking returns, and I'm starting to feel a little bit frustrated over Zaha too. So in summary, this is a game week where I'm very dependent on a few key players to get those points. It's just unfortunate that I leave so much points in the bench too, but nevertheless, it is a reasonable game week where I got a slight green arrow too. So that pretty much sums up my game week 13 results. Now fast forward to game week 14, we have 1 free transfer and 3.1 million in the bank. If we want to do something crazy or upgrade a player who potentially can score well in the next game week, we can do so. We should also be a little bit more risky in our pick given the fact that there are 3 more game weeks left until the World Cup starts. Because during the World Cup, you're going to have unlimited free transfer anyway, so it doesn't make sense to hold back and leave money in the bank and not to get the player that you always wanted. And with that said, let's move on with Game Week 14 team selection. So my goalkeeper for this week will be Nick Pope. We saw how Aston Villa became a different team against Brentford, even trashing them 4-0. But so this could potentially be a very tricky fixture for Pope and Newcastle, but we don't have much choice here. Watt is playing against Man City, and if there's one game you want to avoid as a team, it has to be Man City, right? And Man City so far has scored a total of 36 goals in 11 matches. That's like 3.27 average goals per game. So it's almost guaranteed somehow that Watt is going to concede. Now obviously Watt is on form right now. Leicester looks like a different team defensively, but this match is against Man City, and for that reason alone, Watt has to be on my bench. Up next in my defense, we have the Trippier. In terms of Trippier, we know that the match against Aston Villa is a tricky one, but Trippier is still 60.3% owned. If he were to play and score or assist and you happen to bench him, you're going to lose out some points to 60.3% of all FPL players. So even if the fixture are someone like Chelsea in game week 16, you would probably still play him anyway. Up next in defense, we have Cody. Now, in terms of Cody, in terms of Everton, they have been doing pretty well. So against a team like Fulham, even though Fulham is an attacking team, we have in Fulham we have Mitrovic and Andreas, who is on form right now. So for that reason, I'm not confident in Cody getting a clean sheet points. But I think in terms of Everton defense, they stand a decent chance to get something, or maybe if they're lucky, they can get a clean sheet. I'm just hoping for the best for Cody here. Up next, we have Cancelo. So far in this season, Cancelo has been quite quiet and a little bit decent and average. He scored a total of 2 goals and 2 assists, which is not ideal for a price tag like him. But he also has blank for 2 game weeks in a row, which means if we look at stats, there's a very high possibility that we may get something in the next game against Leicester. Moving on to my midfield, we have Xhaka. Now, in terms of Xhaka, I think this game week is probably the best for Arsenal. You want Arsenal players for this game against Forest. Now, Forest has been doing quite good defensively. They even defeated Liverpool last week. But you have to look at the form of Arsenal too. Liverpool are missing a lot of key players in the last game against Forest, especially players like Darwin Núñez and Thiago. And Liverpool is playing away from home too in the match. And also in that game, Van Dijk could have scored a hat-trick if he has taken his chances properly. So against Arsenal, who is playing against Forest at home these game weeks, and this Arsenal team right now is one of the most informed team right now in the Premier League. So the chances of Arsenal scoring against Forest is actually pretty high. And Xhaka is also on penalty, which makes him a great option for this game week too. Next up, we have Kevin De Bruyne. De Bruyne has been very consistent since the start of the season. So far in 12 games, he has only blanked in 3 of those games, which means he has a 75% chance of getting an attacking return if he started the match. And in the last match, for a moment, we thought that De Bruyne is not on form on the pitch. We thought the game against Brighton is a game that he could potentially blank. And then out of the blue, he just come out with a screamer goal. Now the point I want to make is De Bruyne is a quality and world-class player. So in games where he doesn't perform so well, where he doesn't perform his stats so good, but because of his quality and world-class ability, he could still stick in a goal or an assist to help the team, even if he has a bad day on the office. Next up, we have Martinelli. We know what Martinelli is capable of, and we know his ability on the pitch. We also know that he can create some magic on the pitch, and the home game against Forest is probably the best game ever for Martinelli. And I don't think that Forest is going to keep a clean sheet against Arsenal away from home. And if we have to guess who is going to get that attacking return, it has to be either Xhaka, Martinelli, Jesus, or Odegaard. And so he could very well be getting some attacking returns this game week too. Next up in my midfield, we have Zaha. I know that Zaha has been disappointing so far in the past few game weeks, but playing at home against a team like Southampton, it would be a fool not to pick Zaha for this game week. Zaha is also on penalty, which is an additional plus point in FPL, and obviously Southampton has been doing well for the past 3 game weeks, and we saw on certain game weeks Zaha can show some individual brilliance to get that goal or assist. And this is a home match for Crystal Palace, so I won't be surprised if Zaha come up with a huge point this game week. And lastly, in my midfield, we have Andreas. Now I'm considering benching Andreas for this game week because Solanke looks like he's injured, and Solanke fixture is not so good. So this could be an opportunity to play a 3-man forward team. And look at my 5 midfield, the only person that I'm willing to drop right now is Andreas. I know he scored 10 pointers and assists twice in the last game weeks, but the last game is against Leeds, and we know how terrible Leeds defense are right now. But for this game week, they play against Everton, which is slightly tougher, and given the fact that Everton has been doing quite well defensively in the last few game weeks, and for that reason alone, Dortmund, he's going to sit on my bench this game week. Moving on to my forward, we have Haaland. Now obviously Haaland started the game against Dortmund in the Champions League, but he got subbed off at halftime too. Pep Guardiola has explained the reasoning behind substitutions of Haaland in 3 simple points. Number 1, he saw a tired Haaland on the pitch. Number 2, Haaland is playing with a little bit of fever too. And number 3, Haaland has suffered a knock on his feet too. So for all that reasons, Haaland has seen the doctor for that knock, and there are also reports indicating that Haaland actually limped into the medical center, but he come out with a big smile on his face. So it could actually be nothing really on his injuries. And then there are a few ways to look at this situation here. First, there's a chance that Pep will start Haaland and then take him off at around 60th minutes to give him some more rest. And secondly, he may get a bench for 1 game week and then came back fully rested for the home game against Fulham. If he starts just 60 minutes of this Leicester game, I think it's more than enough to give him some attacking returns, because we know that he will try to play every game, every minute possible, because he's not in the World Cup. So if he starts for just 60 minutes or even 45 minutes, there's a good chance that he may get some attacking returns after all. And even if Pep decides to bench him, he will be well rested and he will certainly be back for game week 15, well rested, and he will score against a Fulham side who has been poor defensively and leaking goals everywhere. And we also have great options in Xhaka too. So in the event that Pep actually bench Haaland, we have Xhaka as a vice captain, because I'm confident in Xhaka's ability to get some attacking returns against Forest too. So if Haaland were to be benched, and we could always count on Xhaka as a vice captain to give us the points that we desire. And for all these reasons, I'm gonna hold on to Haaland first and not make any rash decisions. Next up in my forward, we have Mitrovic. A home game against Everton could be a chance for Mitrovic to get some attacking returns, and we have seen how Mitrovic is able to score against any opponent, and he's kind of like fixture proof, and right now he's on penalty too, which is great. So he definitely is going to start here in my team. And in the bench, we have Ward, Solanke, Johnny, and Nico Williams. And in terms of Ward, he's playing against Man City, which is a difficult game to get a clean sheet. Solanke may be injured, and this game week, this fixture against Tottenham is not great either. And then we also have Johnny and Nico Williams. In terms of Wolves form, they have been terrible. They have to consider a number of goals now, and against a team like Brentford, where they have the likes of Ivan Toney, Johnny may not even get any clean sheet points at all. And Nico Williams is just facing Arsenal, so it could be a suicide mission to even select him for this game week. When it comes to transfer, I have to look at all options available, and I have to say my conclusion is that Darwin Núñez looks like the best pick for me so far. If you look at Solanke fixture for the next 3 game weeks, they're playing against Tottenham, Leeds, and Everton. The only easy game for Solanke is the game against Leeds. So fixture wise, I don't think that is best for Solanke either. I could start Andreas for this match, but he's playing against Everton next, which is not great either, because I think Everton defensively is great, and in the last match that seems like a transformed side, scoring I think is 4 goals. And now in terms of transfer targets, I don't have much money to go with Harry Kane. He has a great fixture in Bournemouth and Leeds, but I only have 3.1 million in my bank to do an upgrade. So I could also consider Ivan Toney or Gabriel Jesus, but Toney is playing against Wolves and Jesus is playing against Forest, but that's not the whole point, right? The whole point is that both of them are on 4 yellow cards right now, and they are both 1 yellow card away from suspension, so it's a risk to actually go with both of them. And I could also go with Callum Wilson. He's also 2.4% owned, and he is a great differential player. His next 3 game weeks are against Aston Villa, Southampton, and Chelsea. Only the Chelsea game looks like a difficult game, but the Southampton game is an away game, which is not really ideal, and he could actually get something in the Aston Villa game, but the Aston Villa game is a tricky fixture right now, given how they sort of like have turned over their form recently in the last game weeks, and they look like a different team after Gerrard was sacked. So in terms of fixture, I wouldn't say Callum Wilson's fixture is great either. And then there are some FPL players who is recommending Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, that's right, DCL. DCL used to be a great player, but we are just not certain about his minutes yet. We can see that Lampard is slowly integrating him into the first team, but this is a player who has been injured for a while, and to get the maximum match sharpness, DCL may need a few games to adjust to FPL life. Now obviously his fixtures look amazing. He will play against Fulham, Leicester and Bournemouth in the next 3 game weeks, but even if that's the case, I'm still not fully convinced about DCL. And then we come to our next option here, which is Darwin Núñez. Now Darwin has started the game against Ajax in the Champions League yesterday, and so he's fit to play, and he's also did well and scored 1 goal in the match. And then he was subbed off at 63 minutes because Liverpool at the point is already 3-0 up. They have already won the game, and Klopp could be thinking that he wants to sub off Darwin to get him some rest so that he can start the Premier League match against Leeds in this game weeks. So there's a high possibility that Darwin Núñez is going to start against Leeds. And who else can Klopp play really? I mean, Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz are both injured. They cannot depend on Salah as a forward because he's a little bit off form in the Premier League at the moment. And Firmino is just not the kind of player who is going to be consistent and scoring goals every match. So in terms of option wise, I think the only guy that Klopp can really turn to for goals is actually Darwin Núñez. And looking at Liverpool next 3 game weeks, they're playing against Leeds, Tottenham and Southampton. Both the Leeds and Southampton game is at home at Anfield, so there's a very high possibility and a very high chance that Darwin Núñez will get some attacking returns in these 2 games. And Tottenham away is a difficult game, but it's not the end of the world too. We saw how badly Spurs play against the bigger teams like Manchester United and Arsenal, so there's every chance that Liverpool may actually get something in this game. So for all these reasons, I would say that Darwin Núñez is probably my favorite pick among all these attacking options. And for that captain armband, there's no surprise here, I'm still going to put it on Haaland, even though potentially he may be injured. It doesn't matter if he plays 60 minutes, 45 minutes or full 90 minutes. As long as he start the game, he will always have a high chance of scoring some goals or getting some assists. And for the vice captain, I'm putting it on Xhaka just in case Haaland did not play in these game weeks. Xhaka is on form, he's also on penalty, and he's playing against a Leeds side who has been conceding a lot of big chances and a lot of goals. So this is my team selection for game week 14. Feel free to interact with me down in the comments below and let me know which player or which pawn you're going for in this game week. And lastly, I wish you all the best for game week 14, and I shall see you once again in the next video.